One thing about Martinsville is that there's no lack of excitement here. It's I don't care how flawless your day goes, you're going to bump into somebody at some point, even on a perfect day. So, you know, you put 43 cars on this half-mile track, and it's always going to be exciting. You're never going to have a race where you don't have some sort of drama during the day. And I think every driver can say at some point they have that go on. So you figure 43 drivers have 43 dramatic moments during the day. It's a lot of action going on.
All right, let's turn it loose, guys. Questions?
I got one over here.
Okay, Adam.
Tony, you're one of the few people kind of in NASCAR's history that can look at a race from the perspective of a driver, an owner, and a fan. When you come to a town like Martinsville, where outside of the track, it's not a big city like you have in Charlotte, and Phoenix, and Chicago. What kind of, what does coming to a city like this mean to you as a driver, owner, and as a fan?
Normally you come to towns like this, and these are the towns that have probably the most dedicated fans to what's going on with the racetrack. You get the bigger towns. There's a lot of different things outside of the racetrack going on. When we come to Martinsville here, I mean, this is the biggest thing going on in town the whole weekend. So, everybody, all the people in town are excited about it. The race fans that come in town are excited, and it makes for a pretty cool atmosphere around here. Even though it's a small town, it feels big when you come here for a race weekend.
You think there will be a difference between last year's car here and this year's car here, or does it matter?
I don't think it'll matter a lot. This is the one track on the schedule that aerodynamics don't mean anything. So, I think the body styles this year won't really matter a lot as far as the action on the track. It's strictly going to be mechanical balance.
What about them light? I guess they took some weight out of the front of the car. Is that going to make that big of a difference, or is that more a tire issue for Goodyear?
Well, it took weight out of the car, period. But it'll make the cars faster. Just anytime you can take weight away, it's going to make them quicker.
Back here, and then Randy King.
With you owning Eldora and you having a dirt race at the Truck Series, would you be willing to say that Nationwide and Sprint Cup should also have a dirt series and take it back to the roots? Because when Martinsville was originally dirt, it got paved in '55. So would it be something that you would like to see to take it back to the roots of NASCAR?
I've always said that. Everybody asked ever since I was in this series. They said, if you could be president for a day, what would you do? And I've always said I'd add a dirt race to the schedule. So, I think if everything goes well this year at Eldora with the truck race, hopefully that'll spark some more interest in the Nationwide Series, maybe a cup race time.
Randy King, Steve.
Tony, adjective describe your start, first 4 races.
Not been very good so far. Just a lot of bad luck. I mean, we've had a couple of respectable runs in there, but 2 races that just bad luck related to things that were out of our control. A really, really hard race last week to sit there in less than 10 laps and have a flat tire that, puts us down 20 plus laps right off the bat. You're not going to, I don't care how many cautions they have, you're not going to get back on the lead lap from that and recover. So, we've made the next 490 laps a long day, and hopefully that's not an indication of what the rest of the year is going to be like. But I definitely would like to get the bad luck out of the way early like this, but it's definitely not the way we want to start the season for sure.
Steve and Bob Pockers.
Could California be a place where you guys get it turned around since you've had such great runs there?
I hope so. The good thing is I know what my car needs to feel like to have a good day on Sunday. I know what it needs to feel like on Saturday to do that. So, the way we ran last year there, we had an awesome race car. But, I think Vegas was a perfect example of a track that we ran last year that we were dominant at and really struggled. So, hopefully some of the things we've learned over the last couple of weeks will help us. But at least going into it, we're excited about it because it's a track that we won out last year.
So what was it like to get Bristol in the race car running around 400? You had to have been steamed.
Well, you're disappointed, by the time you get back on the racetrack. But at that point, it's, our goal at that point is just to stick it out and finish the race and get as many spots as we can. And we ended up gaining 12th positions. Went from 43rd to 30th, I guess, 31st. But, which is the whole reason why you go back out in the first place. But, during the race, you just try to make sure that you're staying out of the leader's way. And even guys that are lap down that are racing to get the lucky dog, you try to stay out of everybody's way. And that's hard because you're trying to get out of the way. You're slowing your lap time down doing it. You have to meet a minimum speed. So, you're just trying to be courteous to the other drivers. It's not not their fault that you're having a bad day, so you don't want to be a part of creating a bad day for them.
Bob Pockris, Gluck, and then Jeff Bear, Richmond.
You're talking about Danica down there, and I think a lot of people thought since she ran well at Bristol and at Phoenix last year that maybe she would have had better days than what she had. And so, do you think it was the car, or do you think not running nationwide has kind of slowed her ability to kind of maybe get a good feel on the race weekend? Or
I think if it was just her that was off a little bit, I would say, you know, it might be one of those other factors. But I think the fact that Ryan and both struggled too, you know, I think shows that as an organization we've got a little catching up to do right now. So, you know, I think she's still doing a good job. I mean, her feedback's still good. I mean, but you know, we've all struggled at some point during the races. So, you know, I think a lot of that's just we've got to get caught up as an organization now.
And, great. Do you have to do any like kind of psych building with her? I mean, do you have to do you have to do any motivation with her, or does she?
No, the great thing is she analyzes everything that happens, and she's pretty smart about realizing that it's going to be a long year. It's going to be a learning year. You know, last year was just scratching the surface, and you know, but it's going to be good to go through a full season of just focusing on the Cup car, and she's going to run the nationwide races, obviously, but you know, to be in that Cup car every week will pay dividends. I think the second half of the season, but you know, it's a hard year to come in as a rookie too, to come back with a totally new race car that's not only just an aero package, it's a mechanical balance package too. The NASCAR's changed a lot of the rules of what we could do with the rear ends and everything in the car. So you know, she's coming in a pretty hard year where everybody's having to adjust. You know, and that kind of takes away the advantage of having Ryan and I as teammates, a little bit of having setups that we're used to, that we know we're good, and being able to put her in those right away. We're all three trying to find combinations that are working right now. So, you know, I think she's handling that with a lot of poise.
Jeff, Barry, and Charles.
You touched on your struggles a little bit as a whole team. How great of a concern is that right now? I mean, do you feel like you're a little behind and that you're on the verge of something, or are you behind and you really need to catch up and you're worried that, you know, you guys have gotten off to a slow start? I mean, where's your level of that?
I feel like we got off to a slow start. You know, I think it's just time's going to close that gap up. I mean, we knew that there would be teams that would probably figure this package out right away. There's going to be teams that are going to struggle, and that every week is going to close. That gap will close up on it. It's, I think the teams that are further behind have a lot more to gain each week than the teams that are closer right off the bat. So, you know, it's not that there's no emphasis. There's not a lot of emphasis on getting caught up, because we definitely need to worry about that and need to keep that as an emphasis. But you know, we want to win races too, so that focus is already there. That emphasis is already there. It's just a matter of doing our homework and not panicking and saying, "Oh, we're behind and we can't get caught up." I mean, we know we can get caught up. It's just a matter of going through the process and learning the car, and you know, hopefully some of the bad luck that's come with it will be out of the way too.
So, is there any urgency at Fontana, given that you've been so good there and you won 2 of the last 3? If you go there and you're not where you want to be, I mean, do you feel like you have to show something there?
No, I don't think so. I mean, you still go with the attitude that you're going to do the best you can, and you go with the attitude that you want to win the race. But you know, I think early in the season, it's about logging information and data. And, you know, it'll be disappointing if we don't have a good weekend there for sure. But I don't think it's going to be a crisis where we say, "Oh my gosh, we're in big trouble if we don't have a good weekend there." I mean, we're still early in the season. I mean, we're week 5, so it's, you know, week 5 with a new car. There's going to be a lot to still be learned. It's just a matter of how quickly we move.
Barry, Charles, and Kenny Bruce.
Yeah, Tony, since the announcement was first made about the trucks going to Eldora, my thought was, how do you set up for Eldora on something that historically has never seen a dirt track?
Well, I think, you know, it's going to be a learning experience for everybody, and they're coming in on Tuesday, the day before the race, to have practice. So having those 4 hours of practice will be a big asset to getting those guys some time to figure setups out. But it's no different than going anywhere else. You have to start somewhere, and those guys, a lot of these drivers, I think it was Matt Crafton was out at Las Vegas running a dirt modified out there, and kind of slid under the radar. But I saw a replay of the video feed of it, and didn't even realize that he was running, and I guess he hadn't run a lot of dirt. So you're seeing guys that are not dirt drivers that are going and running dirt races before they even come to the dirt race to get prepared. So you I think it's pretty cool that some of these drivers are putting that much emphasis on it already.
Charles, Kenny, and Heather.
When you were talking to the chamber, you were talking about Martinsville and didn't have the corporate craziness and all that stuff. Can you take that again, like what you're telling
Well,
me?
it's not that it doesn't have the corporate craziness, but there's one thing is the atmosphere here, the feel of the racetrack hasn't changed because of that. You still have the corporate aspect of it, but at the same time, when it's down in the pit area and down on the racetrack, it still has that grassroots feel, and that's something that's hard to balance out. I mean, a lot of these race fans that have been at this racetrack for a long time before all the corporate involvement has come into it. So being able to keep that balance of expanding and growing and bringing more corporate partners and sponsors in, but at the same time not changing the feel of the race is a hard balancing act, and I think Clayton's definitely done a good job of it.
Kenny, Heather, and Randy King.
You hold a track qualifying record here.
I do.
Yeah, I didn't know
That's
if you knew
odd.
that or not. From 2005, I believe.
It's probably the only one that I hold.
I think it is. I mean, we always hear about how qualifying is important, but where is it more important? Where is it less important? And why, for somebody that doesn't watch racing and see somebody go out there and set a track qualifying record, their question is, why couldn't you run like that every lap? I mean,
because the cars aren't set up to do that every lap. I mean, the distinct difference between Friday and Saturday is when these guys go to qualifying trim and they do their mock qualifying runs, they are literally doing everything they can to get every ounce of speed out of that car for one lap. Then when we switch to the race package on Saturday, you're trying to figure out, you may have to run 80 laps in a row, and you're trying to figure out how to make the car the best and the most speed for 80 laps, not for one lap. So if you tried to run what you did for qualifying in the race, you would be fast for probably 5 or 6 laps, but the last 40 laps of that run, you would probably be half a second off the pace and would be multiple laps down. So it just doesn't work that way. It's literally trying to get 100% out of your car for one lap for qualifying and trying to figure out how to make it good for a long run. Saturday.
Is there somewhere that where would qualifying be more important, and where would it be less?
I think it's pretty big here at Martinsville, and brakes have come a long way. I mean, it used to be really hard on the brakes to start at the back because you never got in clean air, so you never had a chance to cool the brakes off. But you had to really drive it hard and use a lot of brakes early in the race versus saving it for later in the day. The guys in the front can be a little easier on it and take care of their cars. It always seems like at the beginning of the race, the guys in the back are in a hurry to at least get to mid-pack. It seems like if you can get to mid-pack, you got a better shot at staying on the lead lap. If you start in the back and get stuck in the back 20 laps into it, you got a big threat and risk of going a lap down pretty early in the day and not recovering from it. So the front 10 guys in the field normally are at a cautious pace at the beginning of it and a careful pace. The guys in the back 10 guys are in sheer panic as soon as they drop the green flag here, trying to get to the front. So I think this is one of those tracks that it's real important to qualify.
Last week, Tony, we saw a track record at Bristol. Was that a product of a new car, just a new track coming in, or should we expect anything like that here?
I think it's a new car, and I think there's a great possibility that it'll happen here. Even though it's not an aero track, aero will help on qualifying and having less weight this year. The cars will definitely make them faster as well. So I think there's a really good possibility it could be built here as well.
Heather?
You spoke briefly about it before, but what do you think the feud between Denny and Joey is doing for the sport?
If it sells more tickets, I think it's great, but I honestly don't know what happened between them. But anytime there's a feud with drivers, that always seems to help ticket sales the next couple of weeks. So I think that's something that coming in here to Martinsville, especially being one of Denny's home tracks, will be a big deal.
Randy King?
Yeah, Tony, Danica's first trip here, I believe. I don't even know if she's been around the place at all in any vehicle. You touched on it down. You gave a great answer down there. It's soft-spoken to me. Could pick you up on the tape. Can you just run this by us again, because that was good stuff?
I'm sure it'll be interesting. I mean, I'm coming here with 2 roles. I'm going to be here as an owner and a driver, and from an owner's role, I'm going to be really nervous. From a veteran driver's side, it'll be kind of fun to watch her learn. I'm sure there's going to be some things happening in the race that she's not ready for, and you know, like I say, there's never a race that's gone here where I've never touched bumpers with somebody at some point, and 90% of the time it's accidental and doesn't lead to a wreck, but it's just you get bumped, and that's something that she's not really used to yet. So I would say, just like anybody else's first trip to Martinsville, it's definitely a learning experience, and you definitely leave here with a headache trying to figure out what you needed to do different. But it's you know, we'll go from California, which is 2 miles this weekend, where you know we won't be real close to people during the day, to coming here where we'll be. It's like throwing 43 of us in a blender. So you know, to be on top of each other all day like that and getting beat on from all sides will be something different for her.
Can you tell her anything in advance coming over before you come in?
I'm trying to decide if I want to or not. Part of me, as an owner, wants to tell her everything I know and try to help her get through it. But part of me's like, you know what? It doesn't matter what you say. You kind of have to just go through the first experience of it and get a feel for it on your own. So you know, I'm sure we'll tell her some things when it comes to what we do to drive. But as far as the race, it's you know, we might have to let her learn on her own there.
Tony, in the past you've been a little critical of the car tomorrow, and as some other drivers, but I've heard some drivers say that the Gen 6 car fits their driving style better. Are you one of those drivers that says maybe this car helps you a little bit more?
Oh, I don't think it helps me necessarily. I mean, this car's got a lot of downforce in it, which helps. I think it helps the guys that aren't as good of drivers, maybe. You know, stay with the guys that are on top of their game. But you know, the great thing is I think this car out of the box has been a really good car, and that's something that none of us could say when we had the COT car. It was a huge struggle. It never felt comfortable. Didn't feel balanced, and this Gen 6 car at least has stability, has balance to it.
Yeah, I think you can. Well, just watching the past races like Phoenix and Bristol, you know, if it's hard to watch that race on TV and not say the race in action isn't better than the product that was put out in the years past.
Keep in mind, nobody's ever built a new race car and sent out an instruction manual of what to do with it. So, you know, we're talking about the second, fourth race on the schedule. I mean, everybody's going to learn. Everybody's going to make it better. But I don't, you know, I think Bristol, with the way the track is now, I don't think it could be the car that we ran for 10 years, and I think the racing would have been the same. So I think it's premature to blame it on a race car so far.
Guys, we can take 2 or 3 more in the full group, and then let the print radio guys drop in. Steve?
With the pit crews here being so vulnerable, can you just talk about how intense it is as a driver getting on and off pit road without hurting any your own team?
Yeah, it's definitely a unique pit road here, and especially if you're pitted in the corners, because the radius is so tight. It's difficult to get in and out of your stall because the stalls are short. But not only that, it's not a very wide pit road, and that's not a design flaw. It's just we're one side of a half-mile track, so and we're pitting in one continuous pit road where we have 2 pit roads at Bristol. But you know, it's very, very close quarters. There's always close calls with crew guys during the race, and you know, that's the one thing I tell my guys right before the race: just be careful and be alert to what's going on around you. It's easy to get focused on their stop and what they have to do, but you really have to focus on what's going on around you with the cars that are in front and behind you as well.
Ken?
Tony, you know, with the race trucks going back to Eldora, do you see this as almost a NASCAR's attempt to try to go back to short track racing a little more after they've gone so far out to so many 1.5, 2 mile tracks and things like that? Do you think maybe coming back to your track and, you know, obviously looking at coming back to Martinsville here in a couple weeks, do you feel like NASCAR's maybe trying to bring that back to a more almost local kind of racing field?
I don't know if that's the angle they're necessarily looking at when they've done these. You know, I think it was looking for something different, looking for a spark for the Truck Series, and going to a different surface was probably the biggest thing, just trying something different. So, you know, this is a facility that I don't care how old it gets and how far down the road it gets. This is not going to be a track that I ever see ever leaving the schedule. It's got too much history. It's got too much personality, and that's what you see a lack of in some of these 2.5 mile or 2 mile and 1.5 mile tracks. Is that if you are going to get strung out, you're going to get away from people, and the fans really like to see us on top of each other. So, you know, I think that's what ensures the longevity of this racetrack, is because of the action units.
Given your sprint cup or your sprint racing and things like that, is Martinsville one of your more favorite places to come back to?
I like it. I mean, I like it because you can bounce off somebody and not worry about killing the aero side of your car. Anytime you bounce off somebody, you're worried about how it's going to affect the car for the rest of the day, and if they're going to be able to fix it. Here, you can knock a whole corner off the car, and you can still physically go out and win the race, because it's just not, aerodynamics is not that important here. So it's nice to know that if you get in an accident, as long as mechanically it's sound, the body can be in bad shape, but you still got just as good a shot of having a good result.
Guys, let's take a little bit of a break. Let your TV guys grab your stuff, your radio, just move on in a little bit closer.